Okay, we're going to call the executive committee meeting of Thursday, June 25th, 2026 to order. Roll call
Gary Mertig,
here.
Pat Kinney,
Here.
Clarence Campbell,
Here.
Bill Metzinger,
Here.
Sean Sederholm.
Here. Okay, everyone is here. Before we approve the agenda, just one note, the closed session is going to be pulled off the agenda. Max is on his way to the airport and he called me this morning, well, texted me first and then called me. He can't be here and we'll put that on the very next meeting. A lot of it had to do with land
It has to do with,
county.
no, it has to do with, placement of inmates who are released.
Right.
That's what chapter 980 is about, supervised released. So, and I don't know, we did talk about it last year with Max briefly. So this would be a continuation of that conversation.
Yeah, and he said, well, we could have another meeting rather quick if we have to or so and put
Yeah.
it back on there.
Yeah, whatever he needs, I guess.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Sean makes a motion, Bill
I'll second that. motion.
seconds it. Any questions? All those in favor? say
I'm having a very hard time hearing anybody talk.
aye. Okay, Sean? Yeah, we're sharing mics, our fault.
Okay,
Sean made the motion and Bill Metzinger seconded it to approve the agenda, amended.
thank you.
You're welcome. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comment pertinent to agenda items. Anyone in the audience? Anyone in the room? Anyone in the room, or do we have anybody else online? Anyone online for public comments? Anyone online? Hearing none, we will consider that taken care of. If we have something during the meeting, we'll come back and maybe address that. Discussion, approval of executive committee meeting minutes, December 10th, 2025 and December 18th, 2025. Bill?
I will move that they both be approved as printed.
Okay, Bill Metzinger makes a motion to approve both of those meeting dates. Is there a second? Second. Pat Kinney seconds. Any questions, changes, corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Vehicle use policy.
Okay, this came up because one of the departments wanted to hire a 17-year-old and it was actually highway. And, you know, we didn't know if the county wanted minors to be driving highway vehicles. They obviously can't drive anything that needs a CDL because you have to be 18 to get a CDL. So basically the only thing they could drive would be pickup trucks and maybe some of the mowers. So we had this policy that from a while ago, like years ago, that never got approved. And we brought back and we wanted to talk about both this and the minor issue. And then I guess, and then how are you want to change this or amend it or whatever?
So are we talking like summer employment?
Yeah,
17-year-old?
summer employment, 17-year-old, yeah.
Okay, so they could, at 17, they could drive the pickups like they do for
Right.
helping, but they wouldn't be allowed to drive,
You couldn't do any of the heavy equipment,
right?
no, obviously no dump trucks, anything that you need a CDL for.
Right.
We did check with the insurance and insurance doesn't have a problem with minors driving. But, again, because do we want to be putting that risk in the position, we thought we'd bring it to the committee. Like,
Bill?
Did we have a policy like this before at all or no?
no,
This is kind of clarifying everything.
yeah, this policy originally was drafted in 2019 and I don't know if it ever became to exec or whether or not what happened to it, but it never got approved.
Yeah, see, under guidelines, it says must be at least 18,
Yeah,
so,
That's with 2 years driving experience as well, so I said, if that's what's in there, I mean, if you have a valid driver's license for driving a pickup for summer help to go mow lawn, I mean.
but yeah, but you're right. It does say 18 years old in here. That's why we brought this policy.
right.
So
But-
we could actually like have something to fall back to.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have trouble hiring before, usually they hire about 4 summer employees and sometimes we have trouble hiring. I don't have a problem with a 17-year-old working for the highway department, but I think like I agree, Sean, we'd have to change that 2 years driving experience probably. And the 18.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, whatever this committee decides they want to do.
I mean, how does anybody else feel?
I think when they first get licensed, they have a probationary license too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I believe minors also are limited in who can drive in the vehicle with them too.
yeah, I guess we'd have to look at, you're right, we'd have to look at that. Maybe what we should do is have you check that out
Sure.
or you and Matt, and then come back with recommendations before we change it.
No, I can do that. My son wants his learner's permit, so I'm gonna be looking for that stuff anyhow. So I'll be happy to get all of it for you.
Any other suggestions for Dan to look at?
So would we send a 17-year-old out in a truck alone? Because most of the time there's 2 people, and what are the odds they're both 17? What are we having them doing if they're taking a pickup truck going somewhere and working?
I know they use them a lot from the shop to go down to, what is it, that satellite down, is it Glidden?
Glidden.
And go mow the lawn and stuff like that down there during the summer. So I mean, they would send, I think,
And-
Clint's
and even-
daughter was doing it for a couple of years and she was, I mean, she must have been barely 18.
Well, and even when they go to a road project and they're doing the flagging, they're driving that pickup. You know, the rest of the crews in the big rigs and stuff and we're driving the pickup, so yeah, it does raise some questions. Can a 17-year-old on a probationary license, is that an issue? Can they drive alone? A probationary license could alone.
I think they can drive alone.
It's the other
Yeah.
passengers, minors or anything else.
They're limited on the amount of other kids they can
Yeah.
have in the car, and then I think at night they have to have them help, so I mean, that wouldn't be an issue during working hours.
Yeah,
So, yeah, as long as they're legal to drive, I don't see an issue with it myself,
How long is a probationary license?
usually, well, when I should say this, when I was on probation, it was 2 years, but that's a long time ago.
That's one of the things I'll look up, because obviously, again, my son wants to drive, and so I need to find out for myself, so I will.
Yeah. So that whole, section there, the minimum driving thing, we should look at that. We know they're gonna have a valid driver's license, but what type of license and what
And if
restrictions?
they're 17, they probably don't have 2-year minimum experience.
Yeah.
well,
Well, they could if they have their learner
Yeah,
permit at
yeah.
15 and
Yeah,
are driving, and then 16, and then, you know.
but it's just 2 years of license driving
Yeah,
experience.
I may or may not have drove her on farm at 6 years old.
so yeah, if you can
Yeah,
check those things and bring that back,
For minors, right?
okay.
Uh,
Yep, Heather?
I think we also need to address volunteer drivers in this policy as well. There's nothing in here, because that question has been coming up. From land conservation and also, Veterans Office, we have volunteer drivers, maybe we need to address something like that in this policy as well.
Yeah, because veterans has volunteers that drive vets to doctor's appointments.
Yep.
Just to get some clarification on
Okay, but they're driving their own vehicles with
No,
passengers or
no,
our vehicles?
yeah,
Our
our
vehicles, okay,
Yeah, veterans have their own vehicle just for that.
okay. Yeah, that, so, yeah, we'll have to find something on that then, thank you.
But. And is there anything else in the policy you want to look at or possibly change? If we're still on it, we're gonna do some research, is there some other stuff?
That where I can, add in, if you have an interlock on your personal vehicle, you can't drive a home vehicle. But that was what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think,
It should be common sense, but it's not physically addressed.
Right, and how that applies to different departments. is
Yeah.
what the-
well, it might, I agree.
Cause it
if-
depending on the situation, you might only have it in your primary vehicle or any vehicle you drive it, that's up to. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if the judge says you can't drive without an interlock device, I don't think you
Well,
can
then
drive
we're
a
not,
county
the
vehicle.
county's not putting them in their vehicle.
Right, right. Yeah,
So whose insurance, if there's volunteers driving vets, whose insurance covers that? Is it the county or the individuals?
Yes,
I bet it's a county, it's a county car, that's why we would wanna find out, how is that being affected?
well, but if the county car, but there's also, if the driver is negligent, the county's insurance would go after his own personal insurance.
Provided they have insurance. I mean, we could have a situation where all of a sudden we find out they're not insured or underinsured.
We might not even have a license.
Well, it's true.
The reason I asked when it's still working, when they switched the policy there, even if we were going to in-service, say in Rice Lake, even to take our own vehicle, we had to provide proof of insurance.
Right, that's in the policy, so I would assume that would pertain to the volunteers as well, whether or not it's being done, I don't know.
Well, that's the question, because if we're not getting proof of insurance from the volunteers, is that something we should be doing?
Yeah, I think
I
we
would
should.
assume, yeah. And I don't know that it doesn't specify for volunteers, but it says for any, if you're using personal vehicle or that you, provide that.
That I know this is gonna get to be dicey. It says,
Does say evidence of insurance coverage right at the
right,
bottom.
Yeah.
When they're operating their
Yeah.
personal vehicles.
we might wanna define what official county business only is. Because we have people driving county vehicles that they have been allowed to drive home. We should maybe define that that's official county business or not, because it's right below, it says an employee must reimburse the county for personal miles. But because for years, we've been allowing county employees to drive vehicles home, which I fundamentally have a problem with, and I'll tell you why. What if I live in Madison? Let me drive to Madison every night? Would you? Would we?
No.
So, okay, I'm gonna live in Superior. I'm allowed to drive a vehicle home every night. You allow me to drive it to Superior? There is no rules in our policy that says where that cutoff is. Whether you live 5 miles.
Fire chief lives in
Yeah. And so my question is, do we want to go down that road or not? But what if we hire an employee who doesn't live close? I mean, we have one in Washburn, we have one in Bayfield County, but what if they live even farther? What if they live in Ireland? And they elect to drive to work every day? Are we gonna allow that? So I think some point, and it doesn't have to be now, but at some point, because this says, that personal miles, but that's not, it says use of any county vehicle must be for official county business, and technically, right now, we allow that as county business. But is there a cutoff? Do we say, you have to live within 20 miles of the, county, or is that even legal? But I'm saying, we hire someone down the road that lives 50 miles or, 100 miles from here, and they elect to drive. Do we let them run that county vehicle every day? Right now, it's allowed.
I think you're correct, and I think we should look into figuring out a policy for that and what is actual official business, because there are employees that take a vehicle home every night. And I don't think it's official business, because example is most of the sheriff's deputies take cars home because if they have to respond, they're quicker, it's closer, or if they live down south. And that's been acceptable, and I think in most cities and counties that is acceptable because it's better police coverage. But there's a lot of supervisors that work in an office 9 to 5 that aren't on the road, that aren't available for calls in the middle of the night, that still take spot. That, I mean, is basically a perk. That's not a
Yeah.
privilege,
Well, and-
whatever you want.
And how do you track personal use? It says they must reimburse the county for personal miles traveled. So they take the county vehicle home and then take their kid to a basketball game using that county vehicle. That's personal use. How do you track that?
Yeah, well, I have another example. You're allowed to take a vehicle home every night and bring it back in the morning to work. But on the way to work, you're doing business for something else. And you're seen with a county vehicle. That's not good for us either. So I think we need to set some guidelines and say, hey, if you're allowed to go take the vehicle home, again, do we care where they live? We hire somebody next week and they happen to want not to live in Ashland. That's kind of their right, but are we gonna start allowing someone to take that vehicle miles and miles? It does, I don't know.
Yeah, when I first ran in 2020, other than the taxes, the thing I got my ear bent the most about, and rather vehemently by some, was this use of personal vehicles. I think we should review the policy. I think some of it's very outdated. And I think there's some inconsistencies on who can and can't take the vehicles, but to me make absolutely no sense. So I'd like to come back and review that and look at it in a comprehensive way.
Might I suggest everyone take a good look at it, and then for the next meeting, bring any ideas back to the
Right.
table that we can. I mean, I'll certainly dig into it, what I can, from my experience or what I can find on it that we can do, but some of it's really gonna have to be specific, I would think.
Right. And there's different departments.
Right.
Like you say, sheriff's department is one thing, Bill.
Should maybe we consult the department heads and see if they have, like social services, highway department, sheriff's department, the nurse's office, the coroner,
Right.
and just kind of see what their policy is so that we can kind of get a same page policy for everybody, so that this one isn't treated different than this one.
Right. Yeah, and we want to make sure there's county vehicles that are used by multiple people, and then there's county vehicles used by an individual. And so what's the rules for either one? Sue, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that annually at the end of the year, then the individuals that do take vehicles home daily turn in a report to me with how many days that they've driven that vehicle back and forth. And then that's a taxable benefit. So it's put on their W-2 and they do pay tax on, it's like $3 a day. So they do report how many days they've taken it, and then it's put on their W-2 and they're taxed for
Okay, we-
that.
maybe
So-
too, we could look at that report and get a better sense too. Okay, thanks, Sue.
Can we get a copy of that before the next meeting? If you have the last one, at least to get a guideline for it?
Yeah, it's only 2 employees,
Oh, okay, then.
Good,
so.
okay, good, thank you. Okay, so we have some homework.
So one more question. So if an employee gets called in for some, I'll say emergency or something compelling where it's outside of normal hours for whatever reason, and hey, I had to go to work or I had to go somewhere, does this policy allow for reimbursement of miles if for some reason they have to show up outside of normal hours?
I would say no. They're still going to work. I mean, they're gonna get overtime where they're gonna get
No,
whatever.
I mean, let's say it's a Sunday, let's say it's our emergency management director and a semi rolls over and there's a spill. And that person, has some responsibility related to that. So it's outside of normal hours, but it's something that compels that person to show up on a day they're not legally scheduled for. I would
Right.
assume that they get reimbursed for mileage and time.
Driving their own vehicle?
Yeah.
No.
So-
Saying no.
I don't think so. That's just considered going to work.
No, let's say there's
know.
a tornado on Sunday.
No, I don't think that we ever, if you're referring, I mean, just in general to like the emergency management director, I don't think that they would charge mileage for that, but we haven't had a situation like that really where I don't think anybody has, most mileage that we see is for conferences or
Right.
out of county meetings or not coming to work.
You know, what that tells me is we have very few instances, maybe for all practical purposes, none, where when someone's taking a vehicle home, something happens where, hey, I gotta get somewhere in a hurry, because apparently outside of normal work hours, they're not having to use that county vehicle to get somewhere.
Well, but a person who has a county vehicle and is called in for an emergency, there's no mileage involved there anyways, right? Okay, but if it was a personal vehicle,
Right,
and
that's what
they're
I'm
not
saying.
getting paid for that either.
I don't believe so.
Okay. Yep.
This is just speaking from my outside prior work experience where we got called in for emergencies to respond for the Park Service. And we would have to drive our personal vehicles in. We would not be reimbursed any sort of mileage or anything for that. We would get paid overtime, for that response time, but that's just how other agencies are doing it.
That's,
Good.
that's all was done when I worked too. When you went to work and if you needed a vehicle, you signed out a vehicle and then you went to go check on whatever you had to do.
Yeah, it's no different than driving to and from work on a normal work day.
Yeah.
Okay. Good, thank you. We will.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, I'll get the information for minors.
Here,
Sue's gonna get the,
to,
and then I'll check into the other interlock thing for,
yeah,
well, there's one department specific we have to look at for.
Pertain to any, well,
Right.
because
Right.
it's kind of in there anyway.
yeah,
Right.
because a social worker would be no different. If a social worker gets an OWI, the judge says you gotta have an interlock device.
Right.
They couldn't come to work with their interlock device in their personal vehicle, park it and take a county vehicle.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that,
Right.
in my eyes, that's not permissible.
And then we'll insert something about volunteers that
Right.
is similar to what we do for our employees.
Okay, anything else at the moment on vehicle? Otherwise, we'll talk about process for performance evaluation for county administrator. One of the things too, and I talked to Matt about this, is if we do a survey and those surveys come back to us anonymously or however we want to decide to do it, those are not open record requests. A person in the community or anywhere else, as long as it stays within the county board, those surveys are not requestable in an open records request. If the county board does something within the county board meeting in a discussion or not, so that can be. But we had this issue the last time where the press came back and asked for all those surveys. And Max will explain it when he comes back the next time. That if we do a survey, if we send out a survey to county board members anonymously, and even supervisors we can do, they will come back. We won't know who's responded, but those are not available to the public under an open records request. Because I asked Max, I said, well, last time we had the press request all that and they got it, but it was because we did it within the county board meeting, discussion. So Max will explain that all, but I think the start for us is to, and I've got some questions from the county association and from what we've done in the past, is that maybe we can do it one of two ways. We can either do paper copies, send them out, and then they come back to one point, and we don't know how they came back. We could, or we can do almost like a monkey survey, where you get a survey and then they come back anonymously. I would rather not have county board members' names on them because I want people to be honest. And that way, it's probably tougher for some of the newest board members because you have a shorter period of time to really reflect on what the questions are. But if this group wants to get that started that way, and then at an executive committee meeting, we'll go into closed session to do more in-depth discussion too before we go back to the board. But go ahead, Bill.
In a closed session, if county board member that is not on the committee may attend, but we're not doing it on, remote.
No, yeah, they have to shut that.
They
off.
have to be here in person.
Yeah,
And I think that should be understood by everybody at the time, so that if they do desire to come, they'd have that opportunity to come to the meeting, the closed session.
yeah, yes, and we can give that announcement to the board too. But what I'd like to do is get permission basically to say, okay, let's get that process started for the evaluation forms to get them out. And we can look at the questions too and add other, maybe what we'd do is on there we put, because there's going to be things that aren't addressed, because so much of that evaluation questions are high level, and sometimes it's somebody said, well, that's not even what I want to discuss. So we should have a place in there that says, hey, write the comments on things you'd like us to talk about or not, haven't been discussed. But
How long is the administrator's contract, or do we not have a contract, or is it just?
we talked, with Max and Dan a month or two ago that we're trying to shoot for September-ish. Right.
Right now, does he have a contract that expires at a certain date? Pardon me?
Not till September 27.
But we would.
We have to have this done before.
Yeah, we'd like to have.
Supposed to do it annually, I think.
Yeah, that's why we're gonna push them for like by September or October.
Okay.
And Max has talked about that too. But if we get a start and then on that questionnaire, have an area where people can add any comments, discussion items or so, does that sound fair? Like I say, I want to keep it anonymous because I think people are more honest that way.
I think people should have the option of either a paper copy without a name on it if they want to fill it out in writing, but also a form that they could fill out on their computer and print, so their handwriting isn't recognizable. They can print it out and drop it off anonymously. And then if they wanted to do it online, including outside of work hours, so they're on their own computer, so it's not tracing IP addresses. We remove that capacity. So it's, it's as anonymous as it can be. I think we should look at a schedule for evaluating the administrator. The city did it annually. I'm really surprised. I've been on the board over 6 years now, and we've done one evaluation, if I'm not mistaken. Clark. Pardon?
We did try that.
We didn't get to it, but but the first administrator before you left, and so that's one factor, and then you were new. But we should also lay out a schedule. To me, because we have elections every 2 years, and there's 5, 6, 7 that leave each year, it would seem, and for the city, they would do it in you know, like January, February is a little bit slower. And then, but it's also ahead of election. So if we work towards evaluations, say in January, February, it's towards the end of, especially for the year of an election, then people have been here long enough to have a sense of it. Doing it right now with new people is hard, but we also need to do one because it's been so long. But I think we also, you know, need to work towards that schedule of, even if we do one this fall, maybe we do it again in January, February, just to get on that schedule as we do it. For board members, you know, we get turnover, but staff has been here. So for them, there's not that issue of, you know, for the most part, I'm new. So there's no reason to wait as far as them doing an evaluation. For the board, because of some new people, that, you know, lag is in some ways is helpful. But it doesn't mean that we both have to do it at the same time. You're going to come up with some questions, you know, from various sources, you know, from prior evaluations and what the counties association would provide. But I also think it's important that staff be allowed to draft some questions and topics that they would like to see addressed, so that that instrument hits, to the extent possible, things that they think are relevant. Because what we think is relevant, or the WCA think is relevant, may miss some things that they think are relevant.
Right.
And otherwise it ends up in the other category or whatever. But they could go through a process to synthesize that, and then work with you in this committee to develop something that from their perspective makes sense, that we might otherwise miss.
Yeah, and I'll get working on that for the next week here or so. It's got to start, but I wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page, so. And then we'll have a spot on there where they can say, who's the administrator? I have been in that boat before. Okay. So anything else at the moment on that?
So Max isn't here today, and we've talked about the vehicle use policy, and we've talked about people taking vehicles home. So we try not to have more meetings than we need, but we've got a number of things that we should get to. Do you have some sense of when
Yeah, Max said-
collectively we could get to
Max
these
said
things?
today, you know, whatever works for us, and he would, you know, this was just something unforeseen, but, so, you know, we could look at,
Well, I don't want to schedule a meeting, yet,
No,
but
but
we've
we
got
can-
some, I'm just thinking about if we're going to gather information, have we identified where we want to get those sources from, and some idea of if it's coming from, you know, say staff, if they want input and stuff. Are we looking at, I'm thinking process here in terms of getting information, what's reasonable? Because maybe that's 2 weeks, maybe it's 2 months, I don't know. But then we'd want to schedule a meeting that allows, if we're getting input from staff on evaluation items, so that you can get those, so that once you have them, we can then
and what
prep
we
for a
can do
meeting.
is send out a email with several dates so that everybody can figure out when we want to meet once we have that information.
This is Bill. Can you address this at like the next county board meeting? So you have this available by then? I think it's scheduled for July something.
28th
or something.
Yeah, could we have it so that we get that ball rolling?
Yeah, a day, yeah.
I think that'd be enough time.
I think it is, but if for staff, if that's enough time for them to pull together a draft of what they would like to see. And then at the board meeting, you get broader input from the board of what they would like to see. And I think it's really important for Max to address that issue of what happened last time. Why was some of that public? Why was that public? And are we confident that this go around, everybody can submit it anonymously and it stays within the county?
Yeah, we could put executive with Max on that county board meeting, and then, like you say, have him explain. But basically, he's told me twice, and again this morning, that there's a difference on how we keep it. Because I don't think the evaluations should be in the paper. They were the last time because apparently how we did it, but Max says there is a way to do it, that the evaluations would stay. Once we get into, in the open county board meeting, or even if we go into closed session, come out and make some decision, that's all public and they can have that. But I just don't think, because I thought, no, fair or not unfair, I thought the press cherry picked what they wanted to put in the paper last time.
Isn't that normal?
Yeah, I mean, when it was 80-20 one way and they only put the 20 in there, it was kind of like, okay. But that's just me. So, yeah.
It should be a constructive process that allows people to express what they want to express anonymously and then be used within the county framework, you know, for that purpose.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's why, like I say, anonymously will get more open and honest than if somebody has to sign their name, because then that comes back to haunt. So, okay,
Yeah.
so we will do that. Anything else on that? Supervisor handbook.
That is the one that all the changes. So.
So there was a request to add the planning committee to the handbook. I think, Dan, were you gonna take care of that verbiage on that?
Yes.
That was one. These are just really some minor updates, I guess. Let's see. We had changed the per diem. There were some areas that did not get updated in the handbook, and it's just page 16, number 11, it still indicates a $50 per diem, which should be 75. Paragraph number 14, again, changing the $50 to 75, and then the additional to the 37.50 where it says 25. Another change, back to page 5, paragraph number 3, where it says maximum of 1 meeting fee stipend per day. It's a little contradicting with that, and also on page 7, paragraph 15, county board supervisor is not entitled to more than 1 per diem payment on any day, which they are. So I think that needs to be reworded.
Right.
And then the final last change or update, or maybe not, page 16, back to paragraph 14. It does say, per Wisconsin statute, counties containing less than 25,000 population, board members are limited to 20 days of per diem, not more than 10 of which shall be for services on any one committee. We have had county board member that claimed more than 10. So I think we need to address that as well. All of the changes are highlighted in the handbook that you received.
Yeah, could that be as simple without thinking we're gonna get somebody attending 50 just to take that 20 out of there? Because it is happening. What the planning committee is gonna be just as guilty as anyone. Because by the time those members are on regular meetings, board appointed committees, and then planning committee,
I
I'm
was
assuming,
thinking about that, I didn't even realize until not too long ago that was even in there. You know, let's say we have even 8 county board meetings a year, and you're on 3 committees that meet every other month, you're gonna go over that 20 meeting days in a year. And I would think a lot of board members would be in danger of doing that.
yeah. like I say, I know for sure. Planning is gonna be having members on there, I'm sure. For that. Yeah,
So going a little further down there, finishing that bottom paragraph. By a 2/3 vote and similarly fix the compensation of the members for additional meetings. We had to fix the compensation prior to the election. How does fixing the compensation for the additional meetings, do we have latitude to do that at this point or not? Or does this pertain only until after the next election?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That is a good question.
Just don't pay a couple county board members next month and see
Well,
what
I
happens.
was thinking about that, if you're limited to 20, if, let's say you hit that 20 in August, why go to any more meetings? I'm not gonna get paid for them.
Well,
I mean, there would be
It
something.
addresses that as well as negligence of duties.
Yeah.
So last April, May, I was really busy with other things besides county stuff. And then I hit 2 meetings in a day, and that's when I first became aware of this policy. And I asked to have it on the agenda so we could address it, and I was told no. It was a bad look. So it was $37 for the second meeting and, gonna give me 75 for the first. My initial reaction, and I still have this reaction is, and I'm gonna say it bluntly, I think somebody running the place had no idea what inconvenience it is for county board members, especially if they're from down county, to have 2 meetings in the same day, especially if one's in the morning, like at 9, and the next one is at 2 in the afternoon. You kill your whole day. Reminds me of some people I worked for who absolutely didn't understand what I did or value my time. And I don't understand paying someone half the rate for a second meeting, especially if they've got to kill hours between meetings. Makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. I find it insulting. Not that I care about the money. I would do this for no compensation. But it's not my place to tell somebody, I don't think that they should get half the money just because, well, yeah, I got 2 meetings in a day. It's like, what? I've rounded up the old people and here we are at a meeting. We're killing their day kind of anyway, because they got a meeting, and what's one more meeting? We'll pay them half. That's my reaction to it. I don't know if we can change it or not, but if we can, I think people should get paid the same for a meeting, because you still got to do the reading. You still got to spend time here. And if someone comes from down county and they kill the day and ask them between meetings, they're killing hours they're not getting paid for, and the county's only having to pay mileage once instead of twice. So,
You could address it, but it wouldn't take effect until the next
well,
election.
but we could still do that. And I still think it would make sense to do it, even if it happens then. But what I don't understand is similarly fix the compensation for members of the additional one. Again, can we do it effective immediately, or does this wait? Whatever it is, it is. But if we put it in the handbook prior to the next election, then the handbook isn't accurate.
Yeah, it wouldn't be, it would have to state to takes effect in 28, 29, or whatever.
Yeah.
28, I guess. Yeah. Same. Bill?
As far as in this handbook, is there anything about vehicle use, insurance requirement, and driver's license for county board members that use a county vehicle? Does that ever happen that a county board member would use a county vehicle?
No, the closest it's happened is Dick driving the BART bus. And he has a CDL and he's using BART's
So
insurance.
that would never happen.
Right.
Go plow snow?
No. Yeah, no snow in my house.
Maybe every county board member should have a car.
Well, I know,
That's
I was
it.
just wondering if
Yeah.
that ever had
And
arisen.
when you said it, I kind of got thinking, has that ever happened? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well,
But we can actually add that to the vehicle use policy.
is that in the minutes though? Is
Well-
that in the handbook?
Well, we can add it to the vehicle use policy.
Okay.
Trying to cover everything else.
So on this state statute with 20 days, total days of per diem, are we following that?
Can we just raise it if need be?
Well, I think the legal question is, It takes a 2/3 vote to raise that. And can we do that now, or do we have to wait till
Yeah.
28?
Mhm.
I think that's the legal question. So I think, Gary, maybe talk to Max again.
If you're on committees that have let's say you have 2 meetings a month, you're over 20. You know,
Well, Clarence, with the on library board and county board, you're gonna hit 20 pretty
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, the library board meets every month,
Yeah.
I think by statute.
Doesn't the library board pay you something?
No,
No,
It's considered compensation, so I don't think we can change it right now. We would
Right.
have to change it by November of 27 before anyone takes nomination papers out to run for county board in 28.
I'll
So-
give you another example. Health and Human Services, when they interview for open positions, they ask me to sit in on the interviews. And often, in the past, we used to schedule interviews, so we had 3 or 4 people interviewing on one day. And now it seems like it's, somebody applies, so let's interview that person, so we're interviewing one person. And then next week, we're interviewing another person for that job. And they're calling me in to sit in on the interviews. Well, I can hit that 20 in no time.
So are we going to, now that we're looking at this, are we going to not pay people after they hit 20 meetings?
Well, it's already,
Yeah, it's in there.
I'm assuming that we're already violating it because,
Yeah.
like I say,
think we
human
are.
services
Yeah.
planning.
I'm sure in my case, I am,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, another thought that comes to mind is I know Bayfield County cut back on number of supervisors, some people think that saves a bunch of money. But you still have to have committee members, and the only thing it saves is you have fewer board members at board meetings. But otherwise, you have to still have the same number of people on committees, so it doesn't save, for us, it was gonna be literally a couple $1,000s a year at $50 a meeting when this was talked about a few years ago. It's not much savings, but people have to be on committees, and that's the hard part is how many people are willing to be on that many committees? I mean, I'm okay with paying people for the meetings as we've been doing it, even despite what it says there. But if we're not gonna pay people, we should let people know. So if they want to make decisions on how many committees they're willing to serve on, just so they know up front.
I guess so. We're gonna have to ask about that statute because we've been violating that for a long time. Yeah. So we'll find out from there.
I think it's important that if we can raise that amount, we could do it immediately instead of having to wait until the next election.
I don't think that you can. That's a law. I mean, that,
The 20 days, if we raised it to
or to
30,
20 days.
yeah,
we might-
they raised
yeah,
that, compensation would be the same,
Right.
but instead of just 20 times, if you could raise it to 30, that would be helpful.
Well, or just don't put anything, because like I say, my concern is, and I know it was happening in the human services, but the planning committee right now has gotta have members who are way past that, because they're on the county board, they're on at least 2 committees, at least, and then planning, which is another one. So I gotta believe some of those members are getting way over. Sean?
I'm just reading the Wisconsin legislative 5913, and exceptions to that rule are the county board can vote to increase the number of allowable per diem days, so it's, and I think you'd have to talk to your legal guy, but it brief skimming it looks to me that we could do it as soon as 2/3 majority vote the next meeting.
Yeah, but what does, the only question is, does there have to be an intervening election? Or you
I think
increase
it,
the
I think,
supervisor-
I said, I'm just skimming it, but I think it can take effect, but the legal guy, the guy that's gonna do that, not me, I'm just reading.
Yeah, good, thank you. Okay, so Max will have his hands full for,
I'll put it out to Katie. and I'll
Yeah.
copy next to you.
okay,
I'll copy you.
thank you. Okay. Heather, anything else big and exciting?
Are we gonna address the other?
We can.
Okay. So basically page 5 and 7, paragraph 3 and 15 in regards to that one meeting. You want to change the wording on that?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to change that.
If I.
Yeah.
That,
I'm
Or
thinking
just
back
remove it?
When we agreed to pay the half payment for a second meeting, I think we didn't call that a per diem.
no, I'm looking at the same regulation of the state statutes and it's in there specifically, county board may not establish multiple per diem compensations for attendance at more than
Yeah.
one committee meeting in the same day. And that's,
Yeah,
I ain't a lawyer, but I'm gonna say you can't do that. If that's.
I just think back and I think we somehow figured out how to get around that when we added the compensation. I don't remember how many years ago this was. We had people on the county board at that time when we were only paying one per diem that would refuse to go to a second meeting that day because they weren't getting paid for it. And when we put that in, it seems to me that we used a different term of some sort so we could get around that. But I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, if they wouldn't come to the meeting today, this afternoon, and they'd come back tomorrow, then they got 50 bucks.
I-
So we thought we were gonna save money.
I wonder if it isn't because you note it as a meeting fee or a stipend rather than a per
Yeah,
diem.
I think that's.
Because that's how it's listed in here is a meeting fee / stipend, not a
I
per
just seem to
diem.
think that that's, because we couldn't call it a per diem because a per diem is one. You know, for the day,
So I'll add this in my email.
okay.
Right.
Paying for mileage once makes sense because you're making one trip. But other than that, you still gotta read the stuff and spend the time and often
Of course,
kill the
how I'm gonna
time.
get around this is I'm gonna get a county vehicle and I'm gonna go home.
So with what Clarence just said, being that it's a meeting fee stipend, then this would provide to be correct because the first one is a per diem, the
Yeah,
second one.
yeah,
So
that's
this would be correct then,
Yeah, so it does say one.
but again, it should go to court counsel.
I remember when we were discussing that, we had a board member who just passed away recently.
Right.
And we were scheduling a meeting of some kind. I'm not gonna go that day. I already have a meeting that day.
Well, the other thing is, we have a board member who's had multiple meetings in a day and has to take off from work because of multiple meetings and, you know, said to me, I mean, this really sucks. I have to take time off for work for a meeting I'm not getting paid for. Just because there's 2 meetings in a day. So in the sense of if we want people who are still working age to be on the board, you know, it helps to pay them for a meeting if they're missing work to be at a meeting.
Other things, Heather? Any other? Great.
This will come up at the next county board meeting.
No, come back to that.
Oh,
So will the handbook in full go to court counsel then?
Yeah, well, we're gonna
Have them review it?
Yeah, we'll ask the questions that were asked today of court counsel. Then we'll make the changes and then we could, if this committee wants, we can send it, the whole thing to court counsel first.
Come back to
And
executive.
then come back to exec, or go straight to the board, whatever chairman wants to.
Yeah, they probably come back here because we're gonna have to meet again
Thank you.
twice a day.
Do your 8750.
I'll just note the county board chair is not getting paid second meeting, but good.
You get the big bucks. for
That's
being
right,
there.
that's right. That's why I took my home phone off. Just by the way, I have no more home phone. I think I told everybody. My cell phones work, but.
Right.
Yes,
This is, we just were talking about it before the meeting though, but the county board chairperson has not received an increase for several years. So maybe next term, that might be something that gets looked at. You know, the per diems were raised. But the county board chairperson annual salary has not been increased for quite some time.
Better be careful, they'll decrease it. It'll be a budget saving item.
I'll make it look.
Okay. Anything else on the handbook updates? We'll bring that back. Parking ordinance?
This is something the sheriff's department asked for. Basically, it's codifying where you can and can't park. So, we don't want people stopping on the highways and, you know, can't park in private property without permission, that kind of thing.
Has this been looked at our court council?
Corp council wrote it.
They wrote it.
Yeah. Yeah, just for future reference, wherever you see something in this format, Corp council wrote it.
Okay.
Just, you can know that automatically.
So one thing that, as I read that, county owned property, to me, I didn't see something, that said if there's, to allow for exceptions, say there's a contractor doing work on a building or something, you know, they wanna, you know, have some cool park there or whatever, to give them some kind of permission, or just so that as a county we communicate, so there's someone there with permission that someone else doesn't look at it and say that's a violation. But, you know, so
Number 9 covers that.
in permanent parking areas. So sometimes with contractors, they get off of, you know, like the parking lot. They, you know, park in variety of places, so it doesn't really, you know, hit for exceptions, but because it just says parking areas, which is different than, you know, construction sites where they park in a variety of places.
Well, if we're doing any big project, we're over $50,000, the county board has to approve it. So the county board can also approve at that time, and the contractors parking where they need to park. As part of the approving the payment.
I would assume that if something's going on, the sheriff's department would realize, you know, that it's okay and it wouldn't be an issue, but. So as a private landowner, if someone, say from downstate, comes up and decides to park on private property, you know, the hunt or whatever, does the landowner have the right to call the sheriff's department and have that vehicle hauled away?
Yes. Trespass.
And then whoever owns that vehicle is responsible for all the costs associated with the towing and the impoundment? And so does that vehicle then get impounded at the sheriff's spot, or where the company that had the wrecker hauled it away from?
Generally, it's the tow truck company or what, like Zip Codes or whoever, Posnell, like whoever tows it, they take it to their yard.
Yeah, they can secure a lot.
Yep.
Where you have to go to court and pay the fee. Everything you have to do. All of them, pay that.
Yeah. Yep.
Zifcos, they don't have a secure lot, do they?
I assume they tow them somewhere because they tow cars and park them all the time till people come get them or they decide what to do with them.
So,
Under that, I don't think it's secure though, I mean,
That's
zero.
If you got another set of keys, you go get your.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
so under A, I couldn't park my car on the side of the highway to pick some flowers out of the ditch. I'm violating the law.
Yes, that's correct.
Or
I mean, that's what.
park by Maringo River to go fishing, because if you're parked on that side, limits 1. If parked on that side, limits 5, but you have to park, that's the only place to park if people are fishing there. Yeah, I'm assuming common sense is gonna prevail. This is just the ordinance so they can actually issue tickets for the parking violations.
Yeah, that's correct.
So one thought on this is if the county does by the jail, repave that and put up a secure fence, it's possible that if someone's trespassing in a company with a record, wants to haul a vehicle away, that if it was stored on county property and we charge for that vehicle being there, a storage fee, so that they have a secure area to park a vehicle. I don't know if that'd be interest to any of the companies or not. Yeah,
We would inherit a lot of garbage that we would be responsible to get rid of, because generally some of that things that gets towed end up getting scrapped by the scrapyard. That's why the tow truck people store them there.
Would this ordinance have to go before the county board?
Yes.
Yeah.
It would have to go through the county board and have to be published in the newspaper.
Published first or?
No, you can publish after. It just can't take effect until after it's published. But yeah, if you guys approve this, it would go to the next board.
Is there a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve it, to send it to, board for approval.
Okay,
I'll second that.
Okay, I need to hear that again because it's extremely hard to hear you guys.
I make a motion to, approve it and send it to the county board for approval.
And who's talking, please?
Mr. Setterholm.
Thank you.
This is Clarence, I'll second.
Thank you.
motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving the parking ordinance, go to the county board, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we are not going into closed session because Max is absent. Like you say, he called me twice. He was in Iron River the first time and we lost contact on his end, so, but then he called me back. Okay, so administrator updates?
Well, it's only been 2 days, so I don't really have anything.
Okay, then schedule next.
so July 28th, we have a board meeting, and then there's that session out at the visitor center regarding data centers, and the information on the data center has been sent out to the entire board, I think at least twice. And in particular, the zoning committee's been encouraged to attend. We may have a quorum of one or more committees out there, or possibly even county board. And so it wouldn't be a chance meeting per se if a quorum was out there.
We should post it.
Yeah, yeah, because with the city stuff at times, there were clearly, these weren't chance meetings. So we can't argue it's a chance meeting, given how much info has been sent out and encouragement to go. So just posting it would make sense.
And then what we can do is we'll figure out a couple of dates for the next executive meeting, send it out and see what works for everybody so that everybody can make the meeting. Don't,
So on July 28th, we've got a board meeting, and then there's this data center thing out at the visitor center. Would it make sense to have an executive committee meeting the same day, July 28th, either before or after the county board meeting, as long as we're here anyway?
yeah, it depends on that agenda too. If you could do it in the morning or if you'd have to do it.
I don't think the board meeting is very long. So we could schedule exec for like 11 or something. That way we give ourselves 2 hours for the board.
And the event at the visitor center,
Is
at
that-
2 o'clock or 1 o'clock?
No, it's 6 o'clock.
No, they're going to the Bayfield County Board meeting in the evening.
Oh, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock or 2?
1 o'clock. Let me check the email from Kelly.
What would we have for the executive meeting on the 28th? Wouldn't it be better if we were gonna take something to the full board
Oh,
to do prior?
so the data center, there's actually 2 meetings. They have one on the 27th Monday, the 27th and 26th from 6 to 8. And then one on the 28th from 1:30 to 3:30. I believe everybody had this email sent to them, but I can send it to everybody if you want.
Would we have anything in the exec that we'd have to take to that 28th county board member meeting? Or,
Well, if there's anything related to what we talked about today that we'd want input from the board from or approval from, or if drafts are ready for us to consider, I mean, previous term, we had a few meetings for exec at 8 in the morning to take care of something so that the board meeting agenda, could address it. I'm just wondering if that day works, some of you are traveling further than people like me and we've got one meeting. I do realize you're not gonna get paid as much for it.
so should we set it for the 28th? And then prior to that, within the next week or two, we'll know what exactly we're gonna be having on that meeting. So then we could address the change in time if we wanted to move it before.
Oh. I think you're better off with the option. Send out some options.
Okay,
I think you're better off with that.
Why don't we schedule for the 21st? That'd be a week before, and then if we have stuff that need to go before the county board
right.
for approval, we have time to get it.
The 21st is a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have to wait for another whole month.
If you wanna do it at 9 o'clock on the 21st, anybody here on the planning committee? Cause they meet that day too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can do it the.
no, it is
different-
about, no, 9 o'clock is fine.
We can do it a different day.
So July 23rd.
Yeah, that'll work. I don't think. No, that'll work.
Did you set a date?
Yeah, to be the 21st at 9.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Okay, anything else?
We're gonna invite the heads of the departments to discuss this. Is that what we're discussing at that meeting? I assume it's the. Or I guess at least get email input and.
Yeah.
Well,
It's kind of,
we could ask them for written comments and then give them the option that if they want to come in online or be here.
well,
But if we went into closed
yeah,
session.
we want to close session.
Yeah.
that won't work.
But I was just thinking, questions or topics, that they would want to be able to address.
And maybe we could just drop them, take them out, and drop them.
Okay,
That way. And then the fourth was, look at the whole function. And the county board members. can do something. And then there used to be a whole bunch of numbers.
yeah,
I mean, what?
yeah, tell them not to put their address return label on it.
I'm just thinking topics like, I have my workspace is adequate to meet my needs for, what I do. I have from the computer, whatever, things that I need are, just topics that they want on the evaluation so that they can then provide an evaluation on it. So we're not missing things that they think are important to be able to speak to. So they're not evaluating anything right now. It's just questions and topics that they want on the list as that evaluation instrument is addressed, so that they can then evaluate those things.
I was referring to any vehicle use policies that each department wanted to add or bring up. Well, while we look at the vehicle use policy and changing.
Yeah, we could ask department heads or employees if there's any concerns about vehicle use or. And I'll be honest, I have a problem with that because there's no cut rule. And I'm sorry, I used to drive 54 miles to work for 14 years in one way. So is that allowable if I'm a county employee? Huh?
You got to live in the.
Yeah, I actually got to live in the suburbs of Butternut, which was really nice. But you know, that's something that we should look at because right now it says Department A can drive that vehicle home, and that's fine. But what's the limit? Because I know people who commute, heck, I have a person who commutes from Washington to Park Falls every day, which is bizarre, but they do.
When I think of that topic, I think of sometimes there was this legacy thing of, well, we've always done it that way.
Right.
But the world has changed over the decades. Budgets have clearly changed. Our capacity to come up with funding has changed. You know, technology has changed. And so we've always done it this way thing. Sometimes we just need to look at that. And some things that we, you know, given our ages in general, we're kind of used to, well, that's how we've done it. But some younger people might look at it and go, this makes no sense. You don't know what I'm doing. I want to be able to, on an evaluation, speak to an issue related to this. And some of those things, they might be very specific to the administrator on these evaluations. But some of these things are also going to, I think as county board members will look at and go, oh, maybe as a county, there's some things that we should do differently because, you know, they don't evaluate us. It's this administration, the administrator is the one that gets evaluated. So to some extent, some of the concerns they might have or changes they want to see require the board to be open and understanding of some things they want changed.
Yeah, but then it should be something for the year.
I'm just saying that, because like when I worked, you know, so often we thought this administration has no clue what we do, some of the decisions they make. And so if you're evaluating your supervisor, that's your opportunity for feedback, but there really wasn't an opportunity for the most part for feedback to the organization as a whole to say, hey, can we do some things differently? I'm just saying that we have one avenue for feedback primarily, and it's all directed towards the administrator. So they may have some questions and topics they want to see addressed where it'll take some initiative on the board's part to say, okay, you know, like space issues, we did a space study, but we haven't fully addressed that concern yet. But it might tell us some things that as a board, we need to take a look at that will require our initiative or cooperation
Well,
too.
then I would suggest we do a separate thing, separate concern issue. Well, have something for the executive committee as far as suggestions that could help, you know, run smoother.
I'd be very open to that.
Yeah. Okay.
So we could plan that sometime or do one thing at a time and maybe after the next meeting, we decide on.
Oh, yeah, because we could get some insights from employees who say, my only concern is my chair's been broken for 6 months or, you know, I mean, but we don't know about that. And
Well,
maybe they don't know where to go.
I bought my own ergonomic chair. I literally did.
But I mean, they might say too, we did the space issue and they might come back and say, hey, I know you're working on it, but here's a suggestion and maybe it makes a lot of sense, you know, on how they could, you know, adapt. So, okay, we'll do that. We'll get something together for that so they can give us their ideas separately, anonymously.
And then maybe for a future agenda, so I was reading the policy in the county handbook related to employee hours, and I also read the remote work policy. It's like a 6-7 page document. One of well, there's two things. And one, I think the county handbook for hours should be updated to say it needs to work for the department, but also the county and the public. Because in the remote work policy, it very clearly says if someone's going to work remotely, it's got to work for the department, the county, and the public. But the other thing that I think about in the handbook, if that's the right place for this, we have people working remotely and we don't have enough space. We got into remote working largely because of COVID and selling the 514 building. Remote work helps the county as outlined in the policy in a variety of ways, but in part because it helps employees, have more flexibility when that works, that works, and that all makes sense. When I was at the University of Minnesota, I did some side work for the University of Minnesota on their online and distance education program, and that program required me to have my own office space. I never set foot in their office space, and it was all online and distance learning. So I had my own office space. And because I had to provide for my own office space, on my income taxes, I could claim the deduction for my home office. I don't know where we're at with employees as far as if it needs to be done, giving them sort of documentation that we are asking them or allowing them to work at home a certain amount and what they might need for office space, so that if they wanted to claim that home office space deduction, they could. And I don't know how many even know about that. But at least to provide that information and any support documentation so they have it when they do their taxes.
Absolutely not.
No, it would be just,
I guarantee anyone working from home knows about any deduction they can take for a home office, electricity, space, furniture, office supplies.
well, I'm assuming some do, but all I'm saying is you may want to consult your tax preparer IS rules to see if you're eligible for any deductions for having a home office, and just, let them seek out that information just so they know. But I don't know for our employees that work remotely, what level of space they're using in their house. And if they know about this, or if we would need to provide any documentation if we were asked, or if we're even considering this in the compensation for that they get, because now we're asking them, because, this vehicle thing, we're letting some people drive a county vehicle. And now we've got other people who are basically saying you need to carve out some space in your house for a home office, because we're a little squeezed on squeezing some people in, especially Health and Human Services.
Yeah, when I worked for home for 14 years, I was fortunate that all the furniture, the phone, everything was being paid for by the state. I never claimed the office space. I could have, but being the state paid for everything, I mean, the fax machine, the computers, the monitors, everything was provided. The phone line was paid for. Matter of fact, I was retired for 2 years before they figured out that they still were paying for the phone line. So, those are things I am assuming that out of home-based folks are using cell phone, probably. I only assume that, but it would be a good question to remind those people, hey, if you're not taking advantage of it, look into it and take advantage of it. And do we provide them? If you're a county employee and Ashen County says, hey, you can work from home for a lot of reasons, are you requesting anything from the county? I don't know. A chair, a desk, I don't know.
So maybe on this, getting feedback and evaluation, I mean, that topic would be more directed towards, they could gather information on the administrative end, but I really have no idea how well that is or isn't working for people. We got bootstrapped into it with COVID in particular, so we did it, and it makes sense. People didn't have much choice in many cases, and with COVID, you didn't want to be around people, but we really haven't asked them, how's this working? Is there anything that we can think of or should do differently?
So there's not a lot of people that are remote working now. Really just the economic support department, HHS. And every once in a while, somebody will work from remote because, they're sick or something, but they still have to get something done. So there's not much of it anymore.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we need the biggest motion of the day. Motion to adjourn. Sean?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting, the next scheduled meeting.
Sean makes a motion. Is there a second?
Pat will second.
Pat seconds it. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.